back to Indianomics. We heard last week that one of the leveraged groups, SR, has managed to sell a prized asset, and hopefully other instances like this from the JP group, from the AG group, from the GMR GVK groups will also bring in more money into their troubled assets and revitalize them. Is that hope well founded is the question we are asking, and I have been speaking with Saurabh Mukherjea of Ambit Capital, Krishnan Sitaraman of CRISIL, and Ananda Bhoumik of India Ratings. Saurabh, that is the meaningful question which I asked just before we went to the break. Have any of the promoters been able to bring in money like in the SR case? Do you expect that money to be brought in so that banks can take a little bit of cut and SR Steels, for instance, loans become serviceable and it moves from stress to de-stress?
I think there's two layers to why the asset disposals of good assets is not really leading to meaningful deleveraging in the system. One is, legally speaking, the good assets are distinct legal entities, often with very different shareholders to the stressed entities. So the legal grounds for saying I will take the asset disposal cash from a good entity and transfer it to the leveraged entities, obviously very feeble, very flimsy, and as a result, in most cases, I think it won't happen.
But there is one common promoter.
But the promoter is not the borrower, right? As we memorably found out when a spirits baron defaulted in our country, and he clearly said, look, I didn't borrow the money, the listed entity borrowed the money, go and ask them for the money. So that point still holds valid, that if a listed entity has taken money, you can't pin the promoter down. Now, if the promoter has some personal debt, or the holding company has debt where the promoter has put his own assets as collateral, sure, the banks can go after it. But promoters are clever people, and they haven't been foolish enough to give personal guarantees in most cases. So when the newspapers and the headlines sort of shout out that big deleveraging deal done, I often sort of wonder what the party is about, because the shift of cash from the good entity to the bad entity, there's really no legal basis to pull this off.
There's no legal basis, but moral suasion or even outright arm twisting is possible now, you think?
I think there's limited grounds to believe that that Indian banks can pull that off. It hasn't happened in the last 20 years, so it's suddenly difficult to see why suddenly Indian banks' grip on promoters will radically change. I know the bankruptcy law has gone through, but in most cases that really is not applicable here.
So if the political authorities were to put their weight behind it, this could happen, you think?
So that's a political question you have to put to the politicians. From where I'm sitting as an analyst, the cold, dry figures and the law of the land doesn't really give the banks that much coercive power. There's another underlying problem. The other problem is the economy keeps on staying very soft, and in capex-intensive sectors, my reckoning is, as I've said on your other programs, I think the capex sector is actually softening further. Investment sector is softening further. So if you look at the percentage of borrowers in India, whose interest cover is less than 1, i.e. who don't even generate enough EBITDA to cover their interest, that ratio is constant for the last 4-8 quarters at 40%. So if your underlying borrower constituency itself is sick, it'll be a miracle if in the stressed constituency you see an improvement in credit quality. The two simply don't stack up vis-a-vis each other.
Okay. Krishnan, you'll have this exhaustive report on power. Are you getting a sense that any of the power sector units can be pulled out because of possibly returning health of DISCOMs?
Yeah, the way we have looked at this power sector is in two parts. One is the generation and transmission companies and the distribution companies. The way we are looking at it is in the next 3 to 5 years' time. The banks and financial institutions' exposure to DISCOM is going to come down significantly, as these loans are going to be taken over by the state governments, which are then going to be the principal financiers to the distribution companies. Having said that, what we are looking at is in terms of the debt at risk. That is remaining at a steady level vis-a-vis the last year we had put out a similar number. The debt at risk between projects which... debt at risk of the entire sector is at around 1,34,000 crores is what we have put out. That is in between 70,000 crores crores is towards projects which are operational projects, and there are around 64,000 crores which are at risk to projects which are under construction. So put together, the entire sector, we believe the debt at risk is around 1,34,000 crores. But what we are also seeing is the exposure of banks and financial institutions, essentially that's PFC and REC, to discoms will come down, but that to generating companies will keep going at a steady rate of around 12% over the next 3 to 5 years. So the stress is continuing to remain at elevated levels. The only thing is that exposure to discoms will come down.
Okay, fair point. Ananda, do you think that the problem is going to grow because if you don't do anything about the stressed loans, the sheer interest accumulation is going to make the load look larger? So are we going to sit at 9 lakh crore of stressed assets, or is that going to grow simply because of the interest accumulation?
I think there'll be a PL impact which has already been discussed because of sheer aging. So therefore, next year for sure will actually worsen as far as credit costs are concerned. But I wouldn't be that bearish as far as accumulation on interest is concerned. But the bigger point, Latha, is at some stage banks would need to take a haircut. And we pointed this out last year. We said the quantum of haircut could be as much as 1 trillion INR. That seemed a large number at that stage, but we still hold by that. And I think till such time banks really address this, none of this is really going to meaningfully help. The cycle's not turning anytime soon. Capital cycle is weak, as we have seen. And so therefore it's really difficult to build a case or a model to suggest forget easing, but probably just stagnate at where they are.
Okay. Last thoughts from you, Saurabh. Do you see that banks will be able to, arm twist some of the promoters, or even convince, simply because, steel after the minimum import price is like $440, you are able to service the loan if it is probably half of what it is. So do you think that at least some of the, or at least one of the big steel units will turn to be de-stressed because of an application of this S4A? Any resolution?
So obviously in India, the fact that 7, 8, 9 very powerful corporate groups have a lot of debt is well known. It's also well known that we have a 5-year election cycle. If arm twisting had to be done, that would have had to be done in the early part of the 5-year election cycle. As we get into the business end of a 5-year election cycle in India, it's very difficult to see who or how you will arm twist these mega corporates. And the very fact that, you mentioned a list of impressive disposals right at the beginning of the program, but there were 4 of them in the space of 2 years of plenty of heartburn and angst about the debt in the banking system. So I think the best opportunity to arm twist these large corporates is gone, and as we get into the thick of lots of large state elections and ultimately the general election, I think the balance of power will clearly shift towards the larger corporates, which means bad news for the Indian banks.
You see any resolution, Ananda? Will that 9 lakh crore become 8 lakh crore stressed assets?
No, I don't think it's going to be that dramatic. A lot of it depends upon, we've discussed this, how that money is utilized. Not much of that is coming to the distressed operating companies. Therefore, unless the commodity cycle were to turn significantly, which is unlikely over the next couple of years, we'll probably stagnate at these levels for some time.
Okay, gentlemen, we are out of time, but we have got some very I can say poignant learnings from all of you. The first one is that what has been sold are good assets, not bad assets, and therefore the stress in the banking system has not reduced. It remains at about 8.5 to 9 lakh crore. Secondly, there is nothing in the law that can force banks to make the promoters bring the money that they have earned from the good assets into the bad assets. Political will should oblige, but at the moment we are not very sure that will be forthcoming. So sale of good assets is not necessarily helping the resolution of bad assets. And third, we have 3 big compartments of stress: steel, power and roads. In roads, we have seen a significant amount of the companies getting more business, and the government forcing government agencies to pay up where arbitration awards have gone in favor of road builders. So maybe there the stress is coming down, but the big stress is really coming from steel, probably 2 lakh crore of stressed assets, and power, about 2 lakh crore of stressed assets. Their resolution is still awaited. We have not seen any of the default loans going into the non-default category or going into the non-stressed category, not even in the next 1 year. So that's a somber thought as we celebrate the sale of assets by leveraged Indian groups. Thank you for watching this edition of Indianomics.